Today we're going to be talking about mass editing in Church Windows membership. If you're following along in the workbooks that are available for purchase on our website, this will be in membership 102, pages 20 through 26. The workbooks are not necessary for this webinar, but if you are following along, they are available to you. A couple of other quick things before we get started. You'll notice that everyone is on mute. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type those into the questions panel on your webinar toolbar. And I will make an effort to answer those as they come in. And if I don't get to them as they're coming in, I'll come back to all of them at the end. Do make sure you keep those questions topical to mass editing and make sure that they are not specifically about your data. If you have very specific questions, give us a call at the regular support line, 800-533-5227. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to open up membership. And the mass edit function is accessed by going to the find. Now, before we actually go in and do a find and do a mass edit, there are a couple of things that we want to make sure we have in place for the mass edit because it is a very wide angle option. It takes care of a lot all at once. So we want to make sure that we are protecting our data. So the first thing you want to make sure of is if you go to Special Functions in Membership and then Settings, you want to make absolutely sure that you are going to back up member file before mass edit. And what that'll do is it'll make a backup right before you mass edit, and then if you change your mind, you're able to restore it right away and clear out the edit that you made. So that is in the membership settings. Now, one additional factor you want to check on before working with a mass edit, because it is such a big change that can occur, if you're using different users in the security settings under administration, you want to make sure that, let me just make a user active here real quick. On the membership tab, you want to make sure that probably only one person, whoever is the most well-versed with membership, is able to do a mass edit. You want to probably take that privilege away from anybody who is maybe only entering attendance or just doing some more, less involved aspects of the program. So if you've got multiple users, make sure you know exactly who's allowed to do a mass edit and who's not. Okay, so let's dive back in here and we'll go to Find. And when you're doing a mass edit, you are essentially able to do one of two things. You can either enter data from scratch or you can edit existing data. So what I'm going to do in this case is do some data entry. I'm going to do a search for, a status code of active and associate member. And I'm going to select those active and associate members and add them to my search criteria and click Find. And this is going to be a list of all my active and associate members. It says that right across the top here. And if we hover over it, it shows us all the additional text that's cut off over here. Now I'm going to come up here to columns and sorting so that I can set this up to view only the information I want to see. So to set that, we use the visible columns on the right, and we can double click on the things that we don't want to move them over to the left, or we can click on the left arrow. And you can also click on one item, scroll down, hold the Shift key on your keyboard, and click on another item, and it'll highlight everything in between the first thing you clicked on and the last thing you clicked on. And then you can click the arrow to make them all go away. So basically, I'm going to clear out almost everything here, except I want to see the mailing code and the status code. Everything else I'm going to just clear out. First name, last name, mailing and status codes. So now what I can do is I can click on the column headers to sort by the different fields, and that puts all of my mailing codes grouped together. So now what I'll do is I'll come up here and click on Mass Edit. And in Mass Edit, I want to edit the mailing code so that all of the ones that have no code get all mailings for their code. So when it says selected records on the grid or all records if none are selected, that means right now I didn't check any specific people, so it would select all of them. But what I want is I want the select records where mailing code is not any of the other codes. So I'm saying not any of the other codes, which means that the mailing code is blank. So if the mailing code is blank, I want it to select all mailings. And that's telling it that all my active members and my associate members who don't have a mailing code already are now going to have the all mailings code. And then I click Update Records, and it warns me that I'm about to change this value for 6 families. And I have one chance here to say no, I don't want to do that. Otherwise, I will click Yes. And it makes my edit. It shows me 10 rows were updated. And now you'll notice the discrepancy. Before it said 6, now it says 10. That's just about the number of people within the families. The mailing code is a family field. So there were 6 families, but 10 individuals. So when it's talking about rows, it's talking about individuals. And when it's talking about records, it was talking about families. And then it shows those rows highlighted. So that is how we can use Mass Edit to enter data that we didn't have already. So now what we'll look at is how to use Mass Edit to change data. And I'm going to click New Search for this one. And we're going to follow the exact example in the workbook. For the first one, I used a different example just based on the data I have available. But we're going to follow the workbook's record or exercise now. So I selected health record. And this is sort of an example might be that Sunday school classes take field trips, and so the parents need to submit a health record for their kids. So we're going to go through all of the expired and not provided ones, and we're going to make updates to those. So I'm selecting health record is expired or not provided, and then find. And these are my couple of kiddos here that have either expired or not provided for their health record. So I'm going to come back to my columns and sorting, and I'm going to add that health record field so I can see it. I don't need the mail-in code or the status code. But because these are kiddos, let's see here. I'm just going to add the address, the family main first line, just so I can make sure that these are the right kids. That's something that helps us, you know, anything you want to add to the columns and sorting to help you know who's who is going to help you figure that out. So add as much or as little information as you want using that columns and sorting. So in this case, all of the information is filled out. We don't have any blanks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort this by the last name, and I would take my physical list of the kids whose parents turned in a new health record for them, and I'm just going to say, you know, the Millers turned in one, and the Bernards turned in one, and let's grab the Olivers and the Parks as well. So we'll say these selected folks, their families turned in new health records for them, so we want to select just these folks and go to our mass edit, choose the health record. Now you'll see in this drop-down, health record is our only choice for the mass edit. And that's because the only fields we're displaying in our grid are the address, first and last name, and health record. And it wouldn't make any sense to mass edit the address or the first or the last names because those are very individual, obviously. They're not something that all people have the same. So we're going to stick with selected records on the grid, and we're going to say that we now have a current record for those folks, and we'll choose to update. Again, it's going to warn us and ask permission. We'll confirm and say yes. And now it's showing just those current kids. So the last thing I want to show you is how we can undo that mass edit if we decide we didn't want to do it after all. Maybe I selected the wrong kids. Maybe it was supposed to be the opposite. So what I can do is I can come up here and click Undo Last Mass Edit. Now keep in mind it specifically says last mass edit. So what that means is that it can only do the most recent mass edit. You only get one undo for the most recent. And I'm going to say yes to that. And it will revert us back to those original records. So that is just about everything there is to cover from our workbook in the Mass Edit screen. If anybody has any questions, get those typed into the questions panel. And I will go through this one more time just to make sure I didn't miss anything. We will take a look at any other situations that folks might have questions about. Bruce wants to know if you can undo the last edit after you have left the program. You can. It will hang on to that for you, but again, it's only the most recent last mass edit, and it will show you a date on that. I don't know if you noticed when I had it pulled up before. Let me just do a find with everyone so we can see. Let me just do a quick mass edit here so we can undo it. That's going to change a whole bunch. I'm just speeding through so that I can show you how we can undo it. When you click undo, it shows you the date there. I'm going to say no, and we'll close out just to verify this. But if I close all the way out, and reopen it. For some reason, mine's coming up on my second monitor, so bear with me a sec. Here we go. We'll go into membership and find. And here we are, undo last mass edit. And obviously the date hasn't changed, but if it had, it would say the different date there. And we'll say, yes, let's undo that, and it clears it back out just like it was before I did that. Jean wants to know, she missed how we know who can do a mass edit. That's back here on the main screen under the administration menu and then in security. And if you have users set up, on the membership tab, there's a mass edit checkbox that determines whether or not folks are allowed to do mass edits. So you definitely want to limit that to only the folks you trust to have that responsibility. Judy's asking if this webinar will be on the website. Absolutely. We always upload the webinars to our website in the support center. We try to do it by the end of the following week. It just kind of depends on how much needs to be edited on the webinar. Any other questions? If you don't have any questions, thank you for joining us. You're welcome to leave the webinar and go on with the rest of your day. If you do have questions, get those typed in and I'll stick around for another couple of minutes to make sure I answer any other questions anybody may have. And thanks again.